Yeah, sorry.
Whoa, this ain't one.
Be down the side. And
But I appreciate everybody on the chat tonight for your comments. Well, hello, Beekeeping Nation. Welcome to the Bee Connection. I hope everybody's doing all right tonight. And I hope your bees are absolutely pouring the honey in. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight is honey. And is it good in your area, or is it bad in your area? So anyway, just a little bit what's going on here in our bee yard is that we've been moving hives to get ready for the sourwood. So hopefully when I come back from Mexico in the next 3 weeks, sourwood will be flowing up here in the mountains of North Carolina. So it should start a little earlier down there where Spanky's at. I think some of those fellows are already got their hives ready to go, and it should start blooming out very shortly. So if you're a big sourwood fan, then there's certain areas you can catch that. So but that's kind of what we're doing. We're trying to get our hives set up and ready for that. We getting our hives in our regular bee yard ready for the sourwood. Also, we've moved 10 hives to this location. I felt like we got there a little late last year, so I wanted to make sure I had hives in place with supers on them, ready to go. So anyway, that's kind of what we're doing. I did some grafting over the weekend, last weekend. And to be honest with you, I didn't get very good results. Out of 42 cells, I had 7 to take. But it's a learning process, right? So, I'll get better at that. I think my larva might have been a little bit too big. I think everything else was pretty good, but we'll see coming up, So we'll do another set of grafting when I get back also. And then we moved some of our horizontal hives around, some of our older models that we've had here for 5 or 6 years. We ended up taking them and pulling the bees out, cleaning them out, and painting them, burning the insides out, and then setting them back up and putting new bees in them. And, to be honest with you folks, I didn't know I had so many bad frames inside those hives. When I say bad frames, I'm talking like old foundations that are, plastic foundations that don't have any wax really on them. So even if the bees got there, they're not going to use them. Some old drone cone. Again, I tore that out. Just, stuff that you don't really expect until you actually get into a hive that's been there established for many, many years. So got it to, and I steal a lot of brood from those hives also. So that's why there's so many bad frames in there. But anyway, so we've done that also, and we're getting ready to set our nuke yard up and hopefully have these nukes running over into next year. So they'll be ready to go for people that wants to buy them. So that's the things we're doing. Like I said, we're headed to Mexico coming up. My wife is stressed out like crazy. So y'all pray for her. My foot's been bad. My back's been bad. So we had a lot of work to do. And I'm blessed to have a daughter who's big enough and strong enough to come and help me. I heard Tom talking to his kids before he got on about doing some mowing and stuff. So, when your kids get old enough to help dad out, it's very special. I mean, extremely special. And there's always learning things that you have to teach and but you appreciate their help so much. It's unreal how much you appreciate their help. So, and sometimes it's learning for the dads too. So, but yeah, Dave, I am falling apart. I sure am. Oh man. And but anyway, that's kind of what's going on here. Like I said, tonight we're going to talk about honey, but I want to kind of see what's going on with Tom and his bee yard, and we'll get down with Spanky, and then Leo will probably be in a little shortly because of his work. So, Spanky, what's going off the mountain there, brother? How's things going?
I don't know if it's going any better than it was. I noticed that the Indian frame swarm, they were bearding the other day, something fierce. So sometime I'm gonna put another box on them and see what they're doing.
Right.
I noticed the mimosas are in bloom a little bit further down in Hickory.
Okay.
I'm thinking they might be in bloom up here now too. Another food source they might be actually able to go and hit.
Right. Have you seen the sourwoods look like they're starting to bud out down there yet, Spanky, or are they just still not really doing much?
I've not seen any sourwoods.
Okay. All right. So Tom, what's going on in your area? I know you and Melissa have been doing all kinds of stuff. I did see you peeing on a box, I thought, or something like that in a video. It looked like to me. They were showing how the water would repel off these wax tip boxes that they did in the new video. And I swear it looked like Tom was peeing on these boxes. I mean, it's crazy. But anyway.
You want to know something, Ricky? I actually literally, as soon as I got home this evening, I don't know, it was about maybe 5 o'clock, and I had a nuke that I brought home to sell to one of our mentees had requested that he buy one of our nukes. And I said, I'd be happy to do that. But anyway, I'm sitting in my truck, just chilling out just for a minute. And I happened to look at some of my notifications on my phone, and I'm kind of going through them and clearing them off. And then I noticed there was a comment on there from you. So I clicked on the comment thing. It went to the YouTube thing. And I read it and I started busting out laughing in the truck. So whenever I read your comment there about peeing on the box, I'm like, I didn't even pay attention to what video it was. And I'm like, what is he talking about? And I was laughing my butt off anyway. So it was funny. It kind of made my day for sure. It was funny.
Yeah. But I tell you what, that new video y'all got out is a really good video. I definitely enjoyed watching it. Watching what you guys are doing with the wax dip and talking about the painting and showing that video. That's a great video if anybody wants to go check it out. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, we're just kind of, the whole YouTube thing for us really is just kind of not looking for notoriety, but what we are looking for is just if it helps somebody out in some way. You know what I'm saying? It's not to build us up. It's just kind of like documenting our journey a little bit is really all it is. And just to let other people know that because, YouTube is a pretty good source. People go to it for a lot of different reasons. They're looking for answers in a certain topic. We happen to have started to post a few videos for beekeeping. And so again, like I said, it's the idea we have behind any of the YouTube videos is not to compete with you or not to compete with anybody. It's just to share our experience, share our journey. And I hope it helps at least a couple people. That's really our goal. And that's all it is too. So, but yeah, the comment was funny. It was definitely something that I can appreciate because I like that silly humor like that. So Melissa will probably shake her head at me, but I like that. So that was good.
Well, when you got good friends, if you don't pick on them, and you only pick on the people you like, so that's
what
why
I say too. Yes,
yeah.
That's a Southern thing too. So you really, like you said, you only pick on your friends, right? You only pick on the people.
Right.
That's what I tell them. Like if I'm not picking on you, I may not like you, so you may want to be concerned at that point.
If I'm quiet and not really talking to you, if it's somebody I know, maybe there's a problem there. But.
That's right. That's exactly right. So that's a good thing when you get picked on by guys like us, right?
That's correct. 100%. 100%. So Melissa's not feeling good. Is that correct?
Yeah, she's not feeling real well. I guess it was starting Monday evening. I think it was. I'm not mistaken. She started kind of not feeling good. Not sure. I think Brian maybe got her sick or something. I don't know. I'm just kidding. Brian didn't get her sick. But yeah, so she's kind of been not feeling the best here the last couple of days. So I've just been doing my work and doing my thing and going out in the bee yard by myself and enjoying the bees and having a good time. The weather's been pretty reasonable here since we gotten back from Colorado on Sunday. And So I was doing that today, just going through some of our nukes that we had gotten into, the double deep 5 frames, which I really like to do. And Melissa, I think, posted another video here this evening because I took a short 5-minute video when I was out in the bee yard, just highlighting a couple of things and bringing attention to a couple of things. That's all. And just, again, documenting our journey a little bit. But so everything seems to be going pretty well. For probably the last, I don't know, time escapes me sometimes when you get really busy, but I'm going to say maybe the last 4 to 5-ish weeks. It's been a lot of, and I think this is not just me. I'm sure you guys experience the same things. Just a lot of rain, which is a good thing, but moderation is always a little bit key. Unfortunately, that's one aspect that we don't control. We don't control weather, so we take what we get, and that's that. But with all the rain, and there's been plenty of blooms in our area for, a lot of different bloom cycles happening, but the bees just haven't been adding a whole lot of weight. Been probably sustaining more hand to mouth kind of scenario and not really adding much weight to speak of. But then I think starting before we left for Colorado on Friday morning, I think it was Thursday evening, I went into some colonies and noticed that when I got into the bee yards, I could smell it. I could smell the nectar. And I think it was because the bees were all hanging at the front and they're all fanning at the entrance. So they're drying it down. Yep. So I knew we had something coming in. I also knew that it had been a few days since from rain. So it was likely that they could be finding some nectar sources at that point. So I was really pleasantly surprised to see that was happening, and was hope that would continue on, that we haven't gotten too late in the season. But I think we'll still be good for a good couple weeks, and potentially a little longer than that if some things decide to hold out. So we are getting nectar in. Things are doing well. I added some boxes here this evening and moved some things into some larger equipment here tonight. But I'm pretty happy with progress on everything. The only thing I'll say is if you were a honey producer in my area, you might be a little disappointed. Thankfully, that's not really our main goal and objective. So although I'd like to see more, it's okay. So we'll see what happens.
How would you rank this year so far to your past honey flows that you've had in the areas?
If I was to take a guesstimation, I'm going to say maybe at this point, maybe half of what I seen last year. That could be conservative, but definitely they had been putting on a lot more nectar into the colonies because if I remember right, because it was a dry year last year, we had just enough time, or just enough rain rather, in the early spring to be able to get a lot of these bloom cycles going, but they were going to start to dry out early. So I think by about this time last year, everything was dried out pretty well, but we had already stashed away a pretty good crop at that point. So it's kind of like our season split. We got a lot of nectar in fairly early on because things bloomed faster with the nicer temperatures, a little bit of rain, but then there was that 4 to 5 week lull for us when we would normally get a lot. That they weren't putting on much. I'm just saying probably more hand to mouth scenarios. But again, for the last about week now, I guess, maybe a little longer, they're bringing stuff in. So again, thankful to see that. And so it looks like Jonathan's saying that West Missouri is doing good.
Yeah.
Too much rain. Yeah. So, last year, Jonathan, if I remember right, the western and central part of Missouri was actually really in bad shape because the drought hit much harder in central and western Missouri than it did in the eastern side. And I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you maybe down in the south did okay, hopefully. So, it's just one of those things where, and this is one of the things that we talked about when Melissa and I gave a presentation for the CSBA, or the Colorado State Beekeepers Association, over the weekend with Brian from Flower Street invited us out. And we had a wonderful time, by the way. Great hosts, great people, great organization, about education. I loved every minute of it that we were out there. But anyway, it seemed like that, again, we would definitely go out there and visit those guys again. And I wish we had a little bit longer time to spend out there, but Anyway, with the drought last year, things seem like they're popping back out, but it's kind of gone back the opposite way a little bit. So, I don't know. We take those punches as they come, but on our presentation anyway that we had given, we talked about sustainability, and we talked a little bit about, one of the questions I had in our slideshow was, do you rely solely on honey production? Which we ourselves have diversified a little bit, so we don't have just one revenue stream coming in to support that. We have multiple, but there may be some people that just have that single source revenue stream, which is fine. It might be, you might gamble a little bit more, or if you're migratory and you take your bees around, that may not be a big deal because you might lose in one area. But again, if you're migratory, you might pick it back up as you're heading north for the season. You might catch a flow up there. So everything is just to make the best decisions you can with the information that you've got.
Yeah, that's what I kind of want to do. After seeing Keith Spillman's honey flow that he had when I was down there, and Keith, I'm going to post that video coming up too, just so you know. But he had super stacked, over my head down there, and he had buckets of honey everywhere. And I was so excited about our honey flow up here, and we just not really seen it. And that kind of hurts because I set some hives aside just to do the honey flow this year. And, I actually had one to swarm a couple of times on me, and I'm doing the single brood management, and I thought that hive was good to go. It was good last year. And so I went in to find out, is this the hive that's swarming on me? Because it's supposed to be on my honey producing hives, and got down in there, and, she only really had 6 frames to lay on, which was crazy. There was 2 frames of pollen that was just locked up solid. So she couldn't even lay on those pollen frames, even if she wanted to. Mm-hmm. And they looked like last year's pollen. It wasn't this year's pollen. It wasn't really good. It didn't look good. And, and then there's a frame of drone cone on the outside wall that it was using for honey. And, I really wish I had gotten in that colony and did a little bit better job if I was going to do single brood management to make sure that colony, had the whole bottom to lay up, push all the resources up. And that was a mistake on my part, but it surprised me to see it swarm. And of course, there's no honey going to come from that colony this year. So I set 8 colonies up to do that this year to do honey. And, I've really only got one. It's just, knocking it out the door. But like I said, after being down there at Keith's place and seeing the honey flow so heavy, I thought, man, this is going to be a good year. But I really don't think it's, for the spring honey is going to be that good at all. So, but we'll see how the summer comes. Like you said, you maybe miss some flowers out or some blooms out of this spring, but maybe there's something else in the fall or the midsummer that's going to bloom out even stronger. And I'm seeing some plants that look a little different, like on the sides of the roads, like, oh, I don't remember seeing that many of those out there, but this year I've seen a lot of it. So maybe that will definitely take place, so different places or different ways. See, we got Brian on here, speaking of Flower Street Farms here, I seen a video of him and he was eating some bourbon honey. I don't know where he got that from. Something about he had I think it was like peanut butter and bacon, and he had some weird stuff on his sandwich. I don't know what it was. And he said, I'm going to put a little bit of this honey on there. Next thing I know, he's got just the whole knife is globbed down on this sandwich. And now, did he eat it? I don't know. His video went off before he actually took a bite of it. So I can't say he actually ate that, but it was a pretty good video. So I don't know where he got that from, Tom. Would you know?
Well, I was watching that video too. Melissa had said something to me about it, said, hey, Brian made a video. And I'm like, what? And she said that, yeah, he made a video of us having with our, because we left a gift basket there with him. We brought it out when we headed out that way and stuff. So we gave him some swag and a few different things to, as being such a good host and all. But anyway, he had done a video on that, which I thought was funny. But so earlier, I don't know if he was just kind of mimicking what Greg Burns had done, because Greg, I looked at on YouTube, had also a couple hours before that had made a post of him eating a sandwich too. So I don't know what that was about, but I thought it was hilarious. I was laughing the whole time I was watching it. But I also thought, Brian, that was an odd sandwich. Peanut butter and honey, I get. Okay, that's kind of a thing. So I get that. But he also had bacon on there, and he also had banana slices. That throws me a little bit. I'm not sure what that's about, but you know what? To each their own. I hope the sandwich was good. I hope the honey was good. I hope he loved everything. So so Brian just threw a comment up there. It says, hold on, there it is. I only broke like 2 traffic laws all weekend. I'm pretty sure Melissa will have a comment to throw back to that. That's kind of a little insider joke. So we traveled. Melissa and I flew into Denver Friday morning. Brian was gracious enough to come pick us up and took us back, and we kind of ran around just a little bit around Denver. He showed us his house and his apiary and all his stuff that he does, which is phenomenal. And then we headed out west, out to Rifle, Colorado, through the mountains and such, which was a beautiful, beautiful scenery. It was so much. Melissa says, do not talk to Brian as he drives. So obviously you can imagine we had a conversation all the way out there, like 3.5 hours. While we were out there, the whole time we had a conversation all the way back. It was nothing but conversations and teaching event. And it was just the best time ever. Brian can talk as much as I can. So we got along just beautifully, and he was a great host, but it was fun. The drive out there, when you get distracted, when you're talking and driving, it's a good time. Melissa gets a little wiggy with my driving. So she was getting real wiggy with Brian's too, but it was all good. Kept her on her toes anyway. How about that?
Yeah.
But that was just a wonderful time out there. Like I said, the Colorado State Beekeepers Association is just phenomenal. They've all geared toward education. Melissa and I have given a few little presentations to beginner beekeepers and stuff, and that's great. And we always want to help. We always want to fill in where we can and just whatever we can do, and that somebody might get something out of, that's how we want to proceed. But we got to talk to a little bit. Most of the folks that we were talking with were going through the Colorado State Beekeepers Association Master Beekeeping programs. And a lot of them were actually at a journeyman level or some of them in their masters. So we got to, give a presentation to folks that really were, a little bit more kind of along the lines of where we're at. So that was great. It was, they were just super, super fun people to be around. And like I said, we had the best time out there with those guys. So would definitely go back again in a heartbeat. Just some solid folks, and that's just by and large, kind of like everybody that's on here. Just a great group of people. Just kind-hearted, wanting to help out, and that's what it's all about, really. So we really
it's great when you get to go to a conference that you got your buddies there, and everything's going good, and there ain't nothing like it, really. And to me, that's what the Nabi is. But even when we came out with you guys, it was the same way. It was just, there's that feeling of friendship and learning from other people, and you had Greg Burns there speaking, and you had several other guys there. So you had, what was his name?
Nathan, the Ducker.
Yeah, Nathan. Yep, and also Mr. Ed was there. So it's just all those great speakers out there. Can help a conference also, but it's the little guys that you want to go speak to. To me, it makes a conference, makes it really good. So
definitely, yeah, it most certainly does. Just having some real good, personable people that just looking to help somebody out, and there's nothing like it, really. Yep. And by and large, that's all the people that we've experienced along the way through our beekeeping journey, any of the conference settings that we've been to or that we've hosted. I just can't speak highly enough about everybody. It just really is phenomenal. The community around this great thing we call beekeeping is just they're second to none, for sure. So,
yep. If anybody wants to come on the chat tonight, I just went ahead and pinned it, so you're welcome to come in. I think Lee said he's not feeling good, so let's pray for him. He's got a headache, a migraine, and again, remember Ruth, she's under a lot of stress with this trip coming up, and her dad's vehicle just broke down, so that's not what you want to happen before you go on a trip, because he kind of takes us while we're in Mexico. And then also remember Melissa tonight, who caught something from Brian, some kind of nasty disease that happens in Colorado. I don't know what it was, but that's what she was telling me. It was some kind of nasty bug that she got from Brian. But anyway, so let's just remember those guys. Pray for them that they can get through the stress and the sickness and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Hey,
right.
Spanky, what's the flow like down there where you are? Because Keith, man, he says he's like in a honey spot right now. That's not even
Yeah,
fair,
I saw that. And we
man.
weren't doing nothing whenever I went into them the other week. They hadn't built out no comb or nothing.
That's
And I
just
think
crazy.
they might be on something now, at least that 10-frame swarm.
Mm-hmm.
But they were all over that box the other day. The whole front of it was bees. So I'm going to put another box on them and see if they do anything.
Right.
And
You
I saw
know,
a dragonfly. I saw the first dragonfly today
uh-oh.
out there flying around. Yeah. Yeah.
That means the queens making it back from mating flights are going to start to do this number just a little bit.
Yep.
You
Well,
know, the one thing I was thinking about with that too is, obviously we don't like dragonflies for that reason, but I was thinking about it and somebody, do you all have cicadas around you, much like we would here in the Midwest?
We
I've
don't.
not
I don't know
heard
about
any,
Spanky.
I've not
You
heard anything here.
No? So we have a bunch of cicadas that have popped out this year. We're at like I can't remember now. It's the 7-year and the 18-year or 13. Don't quote me. I'm sure I'm off on this, but anyway, I thought about it. I'm like, this may not be a bad thing with all the cicadas that are around this year, because now the birds are going to be going after. And I watch them early in the morning when I wake up and look out the window. There's cicadas that have fallen out of the trees onto my driveway, and I'm telling you what, all they're doing is eating cicadas. They're eating them all and leaving the wings and the head. So I'm like, you know what? If they're full and they're content, they're leaving our queens alone, because we still have a handful of queens that are mating out there. Not many, but so I just had a conversation this morning with a gentleman in my area that I've really gotten to know pretty well, and also does a lot of queens himself. And we had, earlier on, we talked about making some early splits, really early from St. Louis, and getting some queens. And the take wasn't great. It was just mediocre at best, honestly. But this last round that Melissa and I had done, which was about, I'm going to say 20 or 22, give or take. Well, I'm sure Melissa will correct me. But anyway, there was quite a few. We had 100% success on mating on those, which I was pleasantly pleased with. And I've got, I think, 5 or 6 in my backyard that I went out and checked the other day. I know I have 4 of the 5 are definitely good, because I have them in 3-frame mating nukes. And I've got a couple of colonies that are up at one of our bee yards that they weren't queen right. So I actually gave them a couple options. There was a couple of cells that I had found, and I went ahead and swapped those into those boxes to get those queen right. But otherwise, what I'll do is I'll just plug a nuke into one of them here. So anyway, the mating success for us, again, here mid-spring has been phenomenal. We've made a lot of splits and got these colonies into double deep boxes now, and some of them are even into triple 5-frame nukes. I'm stacking them up like that. And I did a short little video tonight on it. I think Melissa posted it. So if anybody wants to check that out, feel free. But I was just using these gals just to build up, draw me a bunch of new combs, and, keep moving.
Yeah, and you're talking about that. I'm going to post a video also. Let's see. Those nuke hives, I have waxed the snot out of these frames.
Oh, yeah.
With a block of wax, and just smeared it on there. And let me tell you, folks, you talk about drawing some comb out with it like that. Man, I don't even think they use any honey. They're just pulling what I've got on this frame off. So, take, again, I had a lot of hives that had bad comb, melted that down. Then I take my torch, I heat this up, and I just rake it back and forth, and basically like rolling it on. But if you turn that frame white looking like that, even though this was a heavy wax tip frame, my goodness, they'll draw it out in a heartbeat. And you talk about getting some good comb for next year. I'll have definitely get some good comb. So
Yeah. I bet, like you said, you probably have enough wax on there that they wouldn't have to produce any wax from their wax glands to make that work right there.
Yep. So,
Which, I
and
mean, you're just saving yourself a little bit, you know?
yeah, I'm taking stuff that's not useful, right? That's just basically trash, and that's what the video will show you. Is I'm just taking bits of trash of comb from everything and throwing in the wax melter, letting it melt, turning into that block, and then taking those frames and doing that. Now, what kind of got me to start doing that was I had a friend of mine that had some Amazon frames, and he kind of, I don't know, somehow or another I ended up with them. Let's just put it that way. And I put them in a hive, and the bees wouldn't even touch them. And when they did touch them, they cross-combed all of them. It was just horrible. And so I started doing that wax with those bars, and man, I've been surprised how well that works. So maybe I'll buy me some cheap Amazon frames too, and just heavy wax them myself and be done with it. Maybe that'd be the better way to go. But that's something that if you guys get to try, I think you should give it a good try. So
Buy American, Ricky.
I agree with you 100%. Well, I had Premier Foundation frames from the first conference when they came to this conference, and those frames worked. Wax foundations worked great. Never had a problem out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got some from somebody else. I can't remember who it was from, and they weren't quite as good. They weren't Acorn. They were somebody else, and they were probably not American made. I'll be honest with you. But then I got these Amazon that was supposed to be waxed, and they were, gosh, I don't even think there's any wax on them, to be honest with you. Yeah. So they didn't turn out good. And when you're trying to get honey, right? Comb takes a lot of honey. So if you can take trash and let them build comb that way, that's a whole lot easier. So it's a whole lot easier on the bees, a whole lot easier on your wallet if you want to make a little money off your honey that year. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've had some foundations before that were wax tip at one point, and then they said a season or two. If the bees, when they get to be later on in the season, I've noticed that if they get to a point where they're kind of going into a dearth and their wax glands stop producing because they're not being stimulated, they'll actually go to some of those outside frames or the bottom parts of them, and they'll actually pick it off there, because you can go back and look at it, pull the frame out and look and feel it, and it doesn't feel the same as when you put it in there. Correct. So they'll actually pick it off there and move it around. So if you have some that are not drawn out, what you could probably do is, if they've drawn out, let's say 60 or 70% of it, but they've got that 30% that is not done, you could do that like you were saying there with that, use it like a crayon and then color in those spots, so to speak, with that wax, and then put them back in there for the next year. Or even if it's still early enough that year to get them to draw that frame out fully. So, and I think another great idea that you don't have to have special equipment. Even if you just got the little 1 ounce bars, which are little small bars, carry that in your bee jacket. And if you see a problem on a frame as you do it, shake the bees off of it, rub it on there a little bit, and then throw it back in there. It may stimulate them to get that, pulled out all the way. Maybe even rotate that frame in a position or two. Yeah,
that's definitely a good idea. I never thought about having a little crayon to carry around and do that with it. So, but that's definitely a great idea. So, I do have some just, wax foundation, and of course that works great, but I do like the black plastic, especially if you're going to do any grafting. Those black plastic frames are great for that, because you can see that larva in the bottom really easy. And then when your little tip goes in there to pull that little larva out, it doesn't dig all the way through that foundation. So that's huge. So,
yeah. That's kind of what we found too when we were taking the Corey Stevens class a few years ago. I haven't done a lot of grafting myself, but I'm not going to proclaim to be, perfect at doing it. And honestly, Melissa was much better than myself. I'll give her props. She can handle that herself and deal with that. I'll set everything up and do the heavy lifting and make the manipulations and all that good stuff. And if she wants to graft, then she can knock herself out.
And I want to comment on Melissa. I tell you what, Tom, you're blessed. Not saying that Ruth helps me too, don't get me wrong, but But Melissa seems like you guys are like together on everything. It's like you got a project, you guys are working together. It's like a well-oiled machine. I've seen you with the wax dipping boxes. Like, man, they really work hard together in the bees. You know what I'm saying? So you're definitely blessed to have a good wife that will get out there with you and help you, and probably thinks the same way that you do, or maybe even one step ahead of you. You can't beat that. So.
Yeah, for sure. Her and I are a pretty good team. We'll pick on each other quite a bit and, poke fun at one another, but that's kind of how we roll. There's no ever any ill intention. Her and I have always gotten along for the last 30 years that I've known her. We've always gotten along really well. We don't bicker. We don't fight. We just pick on each other. Just for clarification though, since she's not on here, so nobody tell her it's me doing all the work here. Okay. She's basically, she's floating. Okay. She's just floating along.
Yeah. I would say that, but I'm sure Ruth's listening tonight, so I'm not going to say that. I don't want to get hurt right before vacation. So
yeah, well, I'm sure Melissa's fingers are typing a mile a minute. She's probably posting a comment right now. So just follow the comment section. You'll see what she has to say.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. So,
yeah.
So Spanky, how do you get your wax on your foundations? Do you guys roll that on down there where you guys are at?
I mean, I mainly use just straight up wax foundation if I'm using any.
Okay. Oh boy, you're in trouble.
There's the comment, everybody, right there. It might be safer for me to sleep on the couch anyway, because she's been there coughing around and I can't be down. I'm not a good sick person. I don't do well laying around.
I don't know what to.
Say again, Spanky.
She said 2 will be sleeping. I don't know who 2 is.
I don't know. You know what? I'm not going to share this couch with anybody. I can tell you that right now. They're going to be on their own.
Yeah. Morris has a good comment right here. He says, my first hive was from Amazon. They would not draw any of the frames. Then I got Premier triple waxed. I know now to always get the better frames. And that's something you just kind of learn, that don't get me wrong, Amazon's cheap, but you're paying for what you get also.
I agree with that 100%. You get what you pay for. If you buy cheap, you get cheap. Spend the money, buy the heavier wax frames from a reputable company. My 2 favorites are probably Premier, and then Acorn, and then our local guy he's the other side of the state, Daniel with Golden Bee. He has his own line produced here, food grade plastic made in the USA that are heavy waxed. We've got a couple of videos kind of showing those. The bees have no issue pulling those out. And I haven't waxed any of these frames, just an FYI. If I've gone from last season and they didn't use them, I may go ahead and put a little bit of wax on them, but we just throw them in the hives and just let them work. So that's another one of those things where we had talked about on our sustainability talk. Time equals money. So Depending on the level that you're at, you may purchase all this equipment that you need. You may not build as many frames as you once did, or there might be certain aspects if you're just starting off, but you have more time and you have less of a budget. Maybe at that time you actually work toward building your own frames or wiring your own wax foundation, things like that. So it depends on where everybody's at and the level that you work at.
Yeah, DC's got an interesting comment. What about a deodorant container that is filled with wax? Could you do that? I wonder. Anybody? Can you do that?
Make it and show us.
Yeah, somebody do it and show us to us. I'd like to see that. That'd be pretty cool if you could pull that off, because that would be a great way of, keeping that little stick clean. Because, if you left it in your car, you'd have a mess, right? So if you had it in a container, at least maybe it would just keep it, from getting everywhere. So
that's actually a really good idea. If you could pull that off, where you could have it couldn't have any paraffins in it, but 100% beeswax in some type of a form where you could deodorant stick roll on, maybe not necessarily roll on because it'd have to be at a melting point, but something where you could wipe it on with that. Who wouldn't buy that? If you used primarily plastic foundations, you had something like that you could use out in the field that, you needed to touch a frame up. Who wouldn't pull that out of their pocket, dust, rub it on there, get a good coverage, and drop it right back in. That would be a good idea that people would actually use.
Three Boys Bees has something here, Tom. Bee Yard was a good place to get away from the wife. Now she has a pink hive tool and a Dayton jacket. Safety no longer. So I do understand that just a little bit. So,
well, I'll say that you can look at it that direction, or I'll flip it 180 degrees and say you may not be safe any longer with that. But if you have her on board, that makes it a little easier to buy the toys. Okay.
There you go.
There's that coin.
Very nice point made. Yes, 100%. So
if your wife has nothing to do with your beekeeping operation, or so I'll say spouse, not necessarily, it could be man, woman, whatever, spouse, has nothing to do with your beekeeping operation, and you're on a strict budget, that may be a tougher sell, right? But if you both do the same thing, then it's a little easier to sell that.
Yeah. Well, if she's in the bee yard, then that means you can do something else, right? Maybe I can go play golf. Or something like that.
That's right. Absolutely.
I'll probably get hit with a golf ball now.
Well, I'd go play golf if I knew how to play.
Yeah.
I usually end up playing a lot in the woods. So, that's kind of how my golf game works.
Right. So how's the honey in the chat tonight? I've seen some people comment how their honey's doing. How's everybody's honey this year? Are you getting a good flow this year? Is it weaker than normal? I'm kind of curious to know, and I'm sure depending on the rain, which we've had tons of it, and I think everybody else has, maybe everybody's having a bad year. Maybe honey may go up in price this year just because of the fact that there's not as much available. We'll see.
Melissa wants to know who's going to join the live with us too. Somebody better come on and keep us entertained. Me and Rick here are going to lose interest in entertaining each other.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, we need somebody else to come on here tonight, be with us, so we can pick on them just a little bit.
Yeah. So I have a question for everybody here. So who has conferences that are coming up, in their own state, their own club conferences, what's happening around, wherever everybody's at, what are we seeing? What's it looking like? I'm just curious to know what everybody has got going on for education and such.
I know the Middle Tennessee and Cooksville, I think they've got the Davy Crockett big conference. I think Caitlin Reynolds is actually going to be speaking there, and that's in July, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. I seen an advertisement come across one of the Facebook groups, I guess, that I'm involved in, and they must have put that on there or something. So it would be interesting to I'm not sure that I could get away then, still a little busy, but it'd be fun. Maybe JW come pick me up, haul me down there.
There we go. We got some people on here tonight.
Yeah, we do.
What's going on, Tom? What's going on, JW?
Well, that's what you asked for.
I think we got a good group on here tonight now.
I can tell you. I'm just getting tuned in. I've been under the weather too.
Well,
how have you been feeling, JW? I know you got that food poisoning.
Well, it wasn't food poisoning per se. Well, I guess it was E. coli.
E. coli.
You probably should have taken a couple sprinkles of some good bee gut health stuff, like some Apis Biologics, or maybe even some.
I tried that; didn't work.
Didn't work. Well, it was worth a shot anyway.
Yeah, I tried it all.
Yes.
Tom, how's everything?
Hive alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tom, how's everything going up there in your area? Mac, you guys doing everything good up that way?
Busy. And, we finally got the rain stopped, and actually a lot's blooming right now. But the previous 2 to 3 weeks, we kind of had a little dearth, so everybody pulled their supers. But I knew better not to. I knew, all the June trees to be blooming, and all the milkweeds and elderberry bushes and all that stuff will be blooming. So I still got all my supers on.
We're seeing a lot of the same thing, Tom. We do have elderberry. We still have clover. We have the yellow, white, sweet clovers. We have white Dutch clover. Let me think about this for a second. Milkweed. I don't know if I've seen any blooming yet, but if it is not, it's literally on the verge of blooming. And I'm curious, you sound like you might know more about that. Does milkweed produce a good pollen source and a nectar source for honeybees?
That's a good question.
I believe it's almost all, I've never seen pollen on them, only nectar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me also. I'm thinking nectar only, but don't take that for
Yeah.
gospel either.
And it will thin out your last day bees too, because bees will get stuck on their flowers
Yeah.
sometimes. But those are your really old bees. Last week, I got a call from a friend. I got a call from Coleraine Township, which is north of where I live. And they didn't want to cut a tree down because they had bees in it. So I went there and closed them up, but unfortunately the next day they found another entrance I didn't see. So I ended up cutting the tree down. I ended up cutting the bees out. So now I have a bee tree hive.
That's pretty cool. I seen you posting about it a little bit. You have all set up with a little roof on it and everything, Tom?
You know, I actually put a deep on it that with rubbed wax rubbed frames, just like Ricky does, trying to get some comb built out of it. Because I noticed it's a brand new swarm, probably only 3 weeks old.
Yeah,
all the comb in it is white as can be.
Yeah.
So I was going to cut them out originally, but there's no way I can frame up that very soft comb. So I'll probably wait till my plan is next spring to cut them out.
That white stuff won't even hardly frame up. It'll just collapse on itself, especially if it's full of nectar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's all brood and nectar. Well, I could see down through it. The top of the log still had about a 6 to 7 inch diameter hole in it. So I could see right down into the bees. And I could see the honey on the ends. I could see the cap brood in between the frames. And these bees, I didn't have to wear a suit the whole time cutting them down.
That's awesome.
With the chainsaw.
That's some good bees.
Unbelievable. And I could reach down in the tree and pour out the chunks and the sawdust off the comb. And they never bothered me.
Wow.
Man, I'll tell you what, those are some good bees, because if you come to my house with a chainsaw, I'm going to come at you.
That's right.
So that might become my #1 hive next year if it makes it through winter.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Tom, I had
Never
2 of
know.
those last year, and one made it and one didn't make it. So, you know, and I did what you did. I actually put a medium on top of that because the guy that saw one of them, he saw it kind of in the middle. And so I put a shallow on there just to give them some extra room, right? And then I want to put a deep on top of it after that, or another medium or something like that, and start getting some honey off of them. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, tomorrow I'm going to start feeding them just to build out comb. Be a comb builder for me.
Yeah.
So
They're
that's my
usually
game
in gear to
plan.
do that.
Yeah. And I went to my out yard today and I did a 4-way split and I got 2 out of 3 queens. So not too bad. And on the one that didn't have a queen, I just gave him another frame of brood to try again. Been still busy doing stuff.
You know, I really need to be doing what Dave's doing right there. Building frames and stuff while I'm on the live. That would be, I'd be double tasking. That would definitely help me out a lot.
Yeah.
JW, how's the bees down in your area? Are you getting a good flow down there where you're at?
About the same as everybody's talking about. I do have about the usual to talk about. I've even got persimmon you know, they're working pretty hard. They're really working the elderberry hard. I've got quite a bit of elderberry around here, and hazelnut, believe it or not. They're working the hazelnut trees pretty hard. Bushes, they're not trees. Hazelnut's just a bush. I haven't really been that active because I guess I've been almost down for the count. I had hernia surgery and was home 4 days, and then this E. coli hit me, and then I spent another 4 or 5 days in ICU. So I'm just now, I've got a shunt here in my arm. I have to IV antibiotics every day. So I'm just I'm going to try to get in tomorrow. One of my sons has agreed to help me, so I'm going to suit him up and let him do the lifting and try to get through some tomorrow. I think I had one little old nuke, and maybe they actually, looks like to me they've either got into something or they got robbed out while I was in the hospital. So a little 5 frame, but I just was a little split I'd made. But I'm a little bit behind. I haven't pulled one out yet.
Well, you're not behind because I haven't either.
No.
I'm not gonna pull anything until July. I don't have time to mess with it right now, honestly.
I probably won't
Hold
either.
anything
But
either.
I do know that I need to add some more supers because I'm sure if I get in there, I'm going to have some packed ones. You know,
Well, that's a good
I
problem.
just haven't been in them. I haven't felt like it.
Yeah. Are you feeling a little
I
better
think I
now, or is
got-
it kind of the same?
I feel quite a bit better. I'm just weaker than a cat if I go to doing much. Of all things, I had a refrigerator in my honey house where I did my extracting and stuff. It went down. All the things I went in there yesterday to get things ready for it, try to do some extraction, and I had about 30 pounds of fish in the freezer portion. Well, guess what that was like?
Not good.
So I spent the morning today trying to do that, but I about wore out myself trying to do it. I've been weak. It really made me weak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot to mention the linden basswood trees are blooming right now too. So
Really?
I think my area's got about 3 more weeks or 2 to 3 weeks of good flow, and then we just got the clover flow. See how long that lasts.
Do y'all have viburnum around and viburnum little tree bushes? You know what I'm talking about? It's pretty rare in our country.
Yeah. We have them. We use them as a landscaping plant here in St. Louis, the viburnums. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
same thing.
I don't know how they are nectar or pollen wise, but the bees are working them a little bit. Hey, Mark.
How are y'all doing today?
Oh, we're just hanging in there.
Yes, sir.
It's been a beautiful day today. At least it didn't rain.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The humidity wasn't bad either, Mark.
I went through a little bit of rain over there about Kabul, and that wasn't much, but that's about it. You know how to tell when somebody is a diehard beekeeper?
Oh,
When they sleep with frames.
that's what Dave's doing right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, I called Golden Bee this morning, told him what I needed to talk to Mia,
Mhm.
and she said okay. And I told her, I said, look, I'm in a big truck. I don't know if I can get down that little road that y'all are on. She said, well, we'll bring them to you. Ain't no problem. So Moses pulled the van up, had 300 frames, and we loaded the inside cab of my truck with them. That's pretty good service, I'll tell you.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mark,
Oh.
they're tremendous family. I love every one of them to death. I mean, I can't speak highly about those guys. They're the hardest working family you've ever seen. Every one of them will pitch in and get it done, and they'll take care of you, won't they?
They've got my business for sure. And these
Guaranteed.
frames are well put together. They're glued. They're well waxed. I mean, and the price you can't beat.
No,
You cannot beat it.
I've bought almost 1,000 frames from them this year, and bought a bunch from them last year. I think I had a pallet or maybe 2 pallets last year. I can't recall now, but we've bought a lot of frames from him, and I love them. The bees love them. They work them well, and his prices are reasonable, and the customer service is top notch.
Yeah. I asked Moses, I said, how many brothers and sisters you got? He said, well, there's 11 of us kids. I was like, oh my gosh. You don't see that much these days.
No, you don't. But they're a hardworking family, you know.
Yeah, they are.
They take
They
care.
are.
They take care of each other.
I appreciate that. Something you don't see these days much of. Most kids are playing Atari or something.
Yeah,
That's right.
Of course, Atari's out of date, but you know what I mean.
we got you.
It's the cell phones now, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Atari is something we played when we were younger, Mark.
Yeah, it's long gone now, ain't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I never did have one.
Yard darts, what we played when I was a kid.
Yeah, you know, Tom, you know, those have actually been outlawed. Like you physically, I got a set of those and I have them in my garage, and I didn't realize this, but did you know they're actually illegal to sell?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
What's that?
The yard jarts.
Oh,
Yard
okay.
darts, yeah.
Hey, all I'm saying is, you know what? When you start having games like that, you end up with a tougher crowd of people. That's all I'm going to say. You know?
Well, when I grew up, we played with chicken chokers and doo-doo bugs.
Yeah.
If you ain't ever went chicken choker fishing, you're missing out.
Yeah.
I'm watching Dave. He's going to roll some wax onto those frames right there if anybody wants to see how to do it.
Yeah, show us those frames after you're done, David.
Yeah, let's see them when you're done with them.
Then everybody can get an idea. Looks like he's
I
using
might want to be using clean wax. This ain't very clean wax.
those bees don't care.
No, they'll draw it
I was
out
gonna
just the
say.
same. It won't make a difference.
Yeah. Looks like you have a 4-inch foam roller, one of those trim rollers. Is that right?
Yeah.
Same thing that Melissa uses.
I don't
Again, you
I don't
know-
even welt my-
I thought you done everything, Tom.
That's what I was going to say.
Well,
Huh?
J-
Rubber
JW.
Huh?
JW, it sounds like you were paying attention a little too close. All right, you're trying to make me look bad. I'm gonna give you some honey. I'm gonna give you some honey, some tainted honey. Then some of that bourbon honey.
Little slip of tongue there, I imagine.
Hey, David, just call them and they'll meet you in Sedalia. And they're like 10 minutes north of Sedalia.
Mm-hmm.
So just call them. They'll help you out.
There it is.
Yep.
Looks good.
That
Dave.
looks good. Real good.
David, whose foundation is that? Is that the oh doggone, I'm having a mind blank now. The white foundation made by oh, it's escaping me right now. We just talked about it a minute ago. Help me
I
out.
think I bought this foundation from Hungry Bear out in Canandaigua.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of Acorn. That's what I'm thinking of.
And Jonathan, I drive for Tyson, by the
There we
way.
Tom, the truth finally comes out, you know, so
Well, that isn't my truth, okay?
it's her truth, not your truth, buddy.
That is true.
You may went through this before I come on. How's your observation job you doing up there, Rick?
Boy, I tell you what, now it's packed with bees. It's really coming on, but it's amazing to watch them at night. And somebody had mentioned about some heavy winds. We had a couple of nights of heavy winds, and to see the numbers that didn't return back was amazing. We've had a really good day, so you're going to see a lot of bees in there tonight. We'll take it up there and let y'all see it, but it's absolutely packed with bees.
It looks like your hive's doing good.
Yeah, looks like you got a good population compared to what you had before.
Yeah, it's looking really, really good right now. Best it's ever looked since I've had it. So, and that's been a couple of years now. So
That venting you did must be really working.
what'd you say, Tom? I'm sorry, I missed it.
That vent, getting that moisture out.
Yeah, I think that's a big key for it this year. Let's see if I let you all see. I've got a fan running constantly in the bottom of it. So right there. It's allowing them to draw that honey out and not have to do any fanning whatsoever, keeping the moisture down. So anybody that's got an observation hive with glass that they can't really vent out real well, I definitely suggest you put a fan to help them out just a little bit.
I got a question for you, Rick, on these horizontals. Of course,
Yeah.
you know, my Semper Fi guy, I'm up to 23 full frames, pretty well packed in that thing. When
Yes,
you
you are.
extract that, do you just take them out individually? Is that the way you do it? Or when you extract honey out of those horizontals? I've never had any experience with it before.
Yeah, JW, that's what I do. I run several horizontals, so you know I have a pretty good honey crop when I'm pulling. It's usually 8 to 10 frames per hive, and they're deep frames. You get a lot of honey, and usually I'm just taking a deep box on the back of my lawnmower and getting the 10 frames out. If you have some brood on some of those frames, take your queen excluder. Don't let that queen get back in there. And let that brood hatch out, and then you can take those honey frames also and wax them. So that's kind of what I do. But like I said, I've got several of them. So for you probably just want to wait till you pull your regular honey off your vertical hives, and just go in there and take that honey out also.
Now, like coming into fall or winter, when you get ready to draw them down, how many do you normally leave in there? Do you leave the whole thing, or?
No, I usually like about 15 frames, to be honest with you. That's
draw them down about 15.
Yeah, that's basically like a deep and a medium or a shallow, to get them through winter. Yeah, I usually, whatever side they're really kind of going to, I kind of let them, I push them to one side and then let them work their way back to the front entrance for spring. So they're kind of make sure that brood nest is against the back wall with all the honey up next to the front of the entrance. So that's the way I like to work them, and that has done really well for me. So
yeah. I was just curious. This is all a new experience with these horizontals. I like it, and it's easy to work.
Yeah.
Another little question, if I may. How about do you use vapor OAB, oxalic acid vapor on them?
I sure do, JW.
Do you drill a hole in them, or you just shoot it through the? Do you drill a hole in the wall to vaporize, or do you just shoot it through the little porch entrance down there in the main portion? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I usually don't use the front entrance. I usually drill me a little hole in the back and put me a golf tee in that hole after I'm done. And usually that brood nest is going to be in the same spot every year. So I tell you what, Dave's got some beautiful horizontals. He's walking through his bee yard right now. If you guys want to see some of them are beautiful hives that he's designed.
Oh.
So
that's David's stuff, right?
Yeah, that's David's stuff right there. He's made all of his own. So look at that. If I knew how to make that bigger so we could see it. Let's see.
Yeah, full screen it.
There we go. Looks like that's had some bad hail damage on top of that roof.
It does.
Was.
Yeah, he's got
a bunch of hives. He's got more
Yeah,
hives than I thought he had.
yeah, he's got a bunch of horizontal hives. He's got more than I have. So
That can't happen, Ricky.
I got to get out here and do something about the ants. That, and I've got to get more frames in here.
yeah, it looks like he's got quite a few hives. So Mark, you say you're headed off, buddy?
What was that, Rick?
Did you say you was leaving us today already?
Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. I just wanted to say hi to y'all.
It's good seeing you, Mark. You take it easy and
Mark.
keep the lower part of Missouri in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm all over it, so I'll keep them straight out here.
Do it. Yes, sir.
Y'all behave. Have a good one, and I hope y'all get prettier weather than what we've had. The rain has just been miserable.
Yeah.
I can't keep the grass out of my garden. I can't keep the grass mowed. Of course, my wife mows, so I ain't gonna complain too much about that. But I quit rearing queens because I can't get any queens back because of the rain. So I've just quit.
Yeah.
It's just a waste of time here lately. So, but anyway, I'm gonna get off here, y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Good night, Mark.
Good night, Mark.
All right. Good night, y'all.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. I got my queen certificate today for next year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'll be able to sell queens and all that for another year for the state of Ohio.
So, Tom, tell me, how does that work with your
Yeah.
state?
If we sell bees and queens and that, we're supposed to register our hive to the state of Ohio, and it's $5 per property that you have bees on. So I have one out yard, so it's cost me $10 a year. And then the inspector will come out and since I got 40 some hives, he does just a spot check on a few hives and checks for diseases, mites, does mites checks and all that. And then he writes up and passes it, and then I get a certificate in the mail.
That sounds really similar to Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of, we don't even have an inspector for our county. We got over 200 beekeepers that actually sell bees and stuff like that in our county. And it's kind of crazy because they don't have enough people to manage the state.
Same for us. We only have one inspector for the entire state.
Wow.
Yeah, we got more than that. So some people don't even. A lot of beekeepers just skip it. I do it every year. He's never gone out to my out yard, only my yard at my house.
Well, hey, he knows about it now.
Well,
You're in trouble now, Tom.
I have to put it on the list to apply for him to come out.
Yeah,
But
but
he
he's,
sees how I set up my hives, and he goes, "You set them up the same way?" And I go, "Yep." So that all worked out good. So I said, I kind of been busy doing little stuff.
It's the little stuff. It always adds up, Tom. I tell you what, you start on something and man, next thing you know, you spent hours on it and you didn't get to the other stuff that you was working on,
Yeah, I set up 40 mating nukes this past week. It's got 2 frames in it. And I'll be putting 2 frames of bees in it and shaking a frame in. So there'll be 4 frame mating nukes.
And your weather's getting a
Grafting.
little better, Tom?
Yeah, we're not supposed to get much rain now in the next couple weeks. One day, slight chance. We were supposed to get rain the last 2 days, and we got like a 5-minute rain last night. That was it. And it's
Yeah.
been sunny during the days.
Are you introducing queen cells into those mating nukes?
Yeah, I'll be grafting on my birthday on the 22nd. So
We had about a 5-minute rain yesterday also, Tom. Must have been the same month that ours all came. We got 6,500s out of it. I mean, you couldn't even see them walk around hardly. It was heavy.
yeah, it kind of, by the time it got to Ohio, it just kind of fell apart. The rain. And that happens in the summertime. Seems like it hits a wall. I think it is. It hits the Mississippi and it's so green east of the Mississippi. I think the plants and trees just absorb all the energy out of the rain.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I was blaming the Russians.
Sounds like somebody, right?
I'm going to go offline and go back to the chat. So see you guys later. Well, I'll still be here later.
Yeah.
Okay, good evening.
Later.
Dave, I appreciate you showing us all your hives and showing us how you multitask. I tell you what, most of us young pups like myself, I can't multitask and do stuff like that. So you're awesome, man.
Yeah, I'd still be looking for my roller.
Exactly. That's exactly right, JW. I was thinking the same thing. 100%.
Where'd I lay that down at?
Yeah. So it
No
looks
wind,
like
no cloud, just heat.
yeah, I
Plus
tell you
you're
what,
sold in that.
yeah, it's hot. Brad says that's one more expector than Colorado has. So
Hey, they are literally the Wild West out there, aren't they?
I tell you what, though, it was beautiful. I seen in y'all's pictures, Tom, out there in Colorado, and I've been out there one time. It just makes me want to go back so bad. It's so beautiful there.
And honestly, it really is. I mean, it was just, the scenery out there was phenomenal. I'm actually glad that we flew into Denver and then drove out there with Brian, because then we got to see all the countryside, and really take all that in. If we would have flown out into Denver and then taken a little plane to Rifle, Colorado, which there's a small airport there, I mean, we would have seen it from a different perspective, but we wouldn't have been able to drive through it and visit. So I think that was definitely well worth it. Thinking about taking the boys out there sometime later on this summer and doing some hikes. So Brian, we may come back out on our own just to visit Colorado, and we'll stop in and see you or say hello anyway.
Well, let me know when you guys go out there, Tom, and I might take the wife and the daughter out there, because I'd love them to see that area out there. It's so beautiful.
So one of the gentlemen that Melissa and I are mentoring here very close to our area that just bought a nuke from us this evening, he actually used to live out there in Colorado, and he said that he gave me some really great ideas of some good places to go. Let's see, Brian, hang tight. I'm going to tell you here, and you tell me what you think. I made some notes. He said, go to Steamboat Springs and Rabbit Eye Pass. We could take some UTVs out there and play around. And then he says, there's a hike. You can go to I think you said 14,000 foot summits near Alma at Kite Lake. And then he gave me another restaurant to go to out that way. So we were kind of trying to maybe consider building a plan. I think something that the boys would actually really enjoy, doing some hikes and some UTV and out in the mountains. And then, of course, Melissa would want to find some good restaurants to visit too, you know? So, yeah,
Maybe
so
next year.
Big news.
possibly
my wife-
July.
Next year, my wife and I will be retired. Maybe we'll hit west and stop in St. Louis first, or west of St. Louis, and then hit Colorado. Just take a long drive out.
Yeah, come on by. Let us know ahead of time when you might be heading this way. We'll go walk
Yeah,
through
it'll
some
be
of the
probably
BRs.
next year.
Okay.
Hey, Brian from Castle Hives. Ruth's going to bring you back a good taco. Not one of those Taco Bell tacos. It's going to be a good taco. And that's not fake news there.
Well, first of all, Taco Bell is not a real taco. Let's clarify
That's
that.
not even a restaurant, is it?
No, it's not even a restaurant. You're right, Tom. That doesn't qualify. That's not food. It's something to put in your gut.
Brian, have you got your observation hive up and going? I made him an observation hive for the conference, and I was rushed, and I actually got one of the dimensions kind of tight, so I actually had to make him some special frames to go in his observation hive. So hopefully it worked out okay for him. I was cutting it close. It was painted, and everything was all together, and I thought all the measurements were good, and I went to put in some frames to see how they fit, and the next thing you know, they were wrong. They wouldn't fit because I'd gotten the dimensions a little tight on one side. So the only thing I could do is make him some special frames. So
It's a special one.
yeah, he's got
Somebody will auction that off as a Ricky special.
a Ricky mistake, that's for sure.
Special. I won't call it a mistake. It's a special.
Yeah. So, but in beekeeping, when you have such tight tolerances that you have to watch out for, it don't take but a 1/16 of an inch to throw something off really bad. So,
Yeah.
Spanky, how's your little octagon hive? That's not what it is, but your little special hive that you got.
I see a few bees coming in and out of it. Not the numbers it did have.
Did they end up requeening themselves? Do you know?
I don't know. Whenever I went back through them that day, all I saw was open cells, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, you've got a little time here before you need to panic. So, if you need an extra queen, let me know. I did get some virgins to hopefully pop in a few hives. So while I'm gone, maybe we can get a good queen for you. So. I don't know if Brian's seen this, but Ruth says, I will bring him a picture of me eating the taco. That's what she said. So, Tom, how many queens are you going to try to produce next year? Have you decided?
Well, this summer, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to do a 40 frame graft. I'm going to try to set over winter 40 mated queens.
Yep.
So I'm going to graft and then see how they come out, how many I get, and then 2 weeks later graft again to replace those. So I'm hoping to do about 60 cell grafts, hoping to get 30 to 40 mated queens to go into winter. That's the game plan.
Yeah. So let me ask you, and Melissa might be able to comment, and some other people here might be able to comment. When you do your grafts, how many queens do you expect to get from those grafts? How many do you think will take? And then after how many you take, how many of those do you think will return off their maiden flights also?
I typically do about 80%. I get cells out of my grafts.
Wow.
I've never gotten 100%. somewhere between 75 and 85% I get cells. So out of 40, I'll get 33, 35, somewhere in that ballpark. And then one or two will be a dud. Queen will be a dead queen in the cell
Hmm.
on average. So for every 50 I do, I get one or two. It seems like it. And then this time of year, I'm only 50, 60% with mated queens. Springtime, I'm 70, 80%. This time of year, I think it's 60 to 50. Now, we're getting some dry weather here. It might be a little bit better. And it's not real hot yet. So, I mean, we're only supposed to be 74 degrees in the next couple days.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got
Crazy,
dragonflies.
crazy weather.
Pardon me. I got dragonflies around here by the thousands. I mean, they're everywhere.
And I
Does
have
anybody
not seen
know
a
any
dragonfly
ideas
this
of how
year.
to get rid of them from around your hives? Anybody?
No. If I did, I'd be after them.
Well, I cut my fields last week for the year this time for the first time, and I think that knocked down the dragonflies. I think I got lucky because I haven't seen a dragonfly yet, and I usually have a lot of them. Knock on wood.
Brian from Castle High says use a 12 gauge.
Yeah.
I've got some that's
Yeah.
big enough for a 12 gauge. I can tell you that.
Be sure
And
to
the
post a
Baltimore
video too.
Orioles,
Yes,
They
absolutely.
left-
I want to see that.
they left last week. They always show up for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they sit right on top of my hives and eat my bees. So
Yeah.
I walk up, but they only fly like 20, 30 feet, and then they fly right back. They have no fear.
Yeah, I had some sitting on the top of hives today, actually. I mowed my bee yards today, got them back and tried to get them back in shape. They was about to get away from me.
So Flare Street,
Yeah.
Brian, you said I did my first grafts on Tuesday, got 0, didn't cut back all the queen cells. We'll try again tomorrow. So can you explain that just a little bit more to me, since I'm not a great grafter of queens, so all these little tips you guys are giving me is definitely going to make me a little bit better at doing it.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I'm pretty sure I know what he's saying. So
Okay.
he didn't remove all the queen cells that they had made within the hive, because I'm sure he's using the queenless cell builder,
Yeah.
maybe a
Okay.
cell builder, cell finisher. I don't remember.
Okay.
Him and I have talked about it, but I can't recall that. But if you leave a queen cell in there, it's likely they and it's after the fact, it's likely they won't pay any attention to the grafts that you put in there. So this is where I've talked a little bit before about if you use a wax, and I'm not saying this is Brian's case, but I'm just pointing this out. If you use wax foundation, sometimes they will build queen cells, because often they don't connect. They'll chew out wax foundation on the bottom edge or maybe even on the sides. They'll tuck queen cells in there, whereas like on plastic foundation, they can't do that as well. So if you miss one of those cells in there or one or two of them in there, it's likely they won't pay attention to his grafts whatsoever, because in their mind, they already have options. They don't need the other ones.
Okay. So for me, I took my queen out and left him queenless for 1 day, and then added my grafts to that same colony. Now I'm sure there might be some other queen cells in there besides my grafts themselves, but is that the wrong way to do it? Should I just be putting brood in it that's just about to hatch and give them no other options of any eggs to graft from or to make cells from?
I would say that's most ideal.
Okay.
What I do, Ricky, is I set up my 6-frame nuke, which I use a week ahead of time.
Okay.
And I'll then go in 3 or 4 days later, shake every bee off every frame and check for queen cells. And if I see any, I destroy them.
Okay.
So when I then graft a week later, they're queenless, hopeless,
Okay.
basically. Now this time I'm going to graft on my birthday on the 22nd, and I won't be able to do anything next weekend. So this Saturday, I'm actually doing something a little different. I got some of those queen pheromone sticks,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take 3 frames of cap brood, 3 frames of pollen, and stick them in my 6 frame box. Then I'm going to give them one of those queen pheromones, so they don't make queen cells. And then when I go 2 weeks from now, they won't have any queen cells for me to cut out, or there won't be, I won't have any queen cells, and all that cap brood should be mostly out. So I
Okay.
should get 9 frames of bees out of those 3 frames, cap brood, cap frames of brood.
So basically, Tom, what I'm understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're just trying to put as many brood frames in there to create the population density that's extremely high, and that's why you're starting at 2 weeks early.
Yes. And I
Okay.
can't do it next week. I'm going to be too busy.
Okay, I
So
gotcha.
I usually don't do that. I usually put mostly food in and only 1 frame of brood, and I shake a bunch of bees in. But this time I'm just going to let them manufacture the bees.
I gotcha. Yeah.
I'm
Interesting.
doing a little twist.
Where are you
So-
getting your pheromone at, Tom?
What's that?
Where are you getting your pheromone from?
I can't think the name of the company, but there's a company that makes these little sticks. They're only like 2.5 inches long, and they work. The bees think they have a queen. You just hang it right in the middle of the brood frame. I use
You
it
don't
when
know
I
who? I need some.
I
That's the
use
reason I was asking. You don't know where you got them, though.
no Queen right? Maybe I can't remember. I just bought them a month ago, but I'm not young anymore. I forget.
Well, that's what happens to you older guys. You get a little bit forgetful, you know.
It's a good thing you're still young, JW.
Yeah, seriously.
Got a mind like a steel trap still.
Yeah.
The best thing about it, they're good for a month, and I cut them in half, like because I'm using them in nukes or 6 framers, and I can leave them in for a week or 2 weeks, take them out, put them back in the freezer, and I know I still got another 2 more weeks on them.
Hey, so
And then
Morris
sometimes,
Homestead and also David says that that Better Bee sells the queen pheromone.
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I
Okay.
bought it from. Better Bee. They sell it.
My,
It's through some company.
I'm going to order one of those queen introduction frames and better be.
They really work good. They can buy you up to a month.
Okay. Hey, we're getting all kinds of answers. People that use it.
And,
Tip
and
queen.
then sometimes, Ricky, if I'm going to be grafting a lot, on the 4th day to 5th day, I'll take that grafted frame out and put them in a queen right hive that has a queen excluder where the queen's down at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
then a queen excluder, and then another deep, and I can put them inside that. And those bees will finish them.
Okay.
Hey,
Because
Tom,
sometimes,
let me,
one time 2 years ago, I had almost a perfect frame, and I didn't have a queen excluder on my entrance, and a virgin queen flew in, and they tore down all but 2 cells. I caught
Gosh.
it with 2 cells left.
Hey, Lisa.
So that's when I made that 6 frame box with one of those dials on it that you use like on the horizontal hives, so I can put it
Yep.
on queen excluder part.
Yeah.
And keep the virgins from getting in.
Yeah.
So,
I've got
Tom,
that.
I have a question for you. Have you ever made a queen right starter? Cell starter. Have you ever done that?
No.
So I understand that's a thing. I've never done it before, and I don't know how people do it. So if somebody has experience with that, I would be. I'm sorry, finisher. Melissa's yelling at me from the other room. A finisher.
Yeah, finisher. Queen
A
white
queen
finisher.
right
Yeah, that's what I
finisher. Finisher, not a queen right starter, because obviously
Yeah.
they won't start. Yes, that's what I'm looking
do.
for.
Yeah. I was going
Do
to
you
say
guys
that's a new twist.
Do you guys
Yeah,
just have you ever done that before, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where you need the excluder.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can't allow the queen to come up because she'll destroy them all.
Okay, so it's just a queen excluder. That's all you're doing differently then.
Yeah, between the two deep boxes. It's
Okay.
the queen's down at the bottom.
Okay.
But if I'm like this time, I'll let them finish. On the ninth day, I'll grab all the cells and put them in an incubator to finish them out. But I do
Okay.
risk between the fourth and ninth day of them tearing them all down if something happens.
So I have an Alpamay hive that has the divider. So all I need to do from what you're saying is I could take my queen over to on that one frame and put that divider in and wait 6 days. Everything on the right side will hatch out. Take her out off that one frame and then put my grafting frame inside that hive. Would that work?
Yes.
Mm.
You just gotta check. You just gotta check you don't have queen cells.
But
On the
if
sixth
I
day.
have her on the one frame with the divider, right? They still
Yeah.
think they're queen right because they can still smell her and go in and out, right? But when on the 6th day, just take her out off that one
Oh.
frame and just pop my graphs in there, then I should be okay, right?
You should be okay.
And I would
Okay.
suggest that they wouldn't work, the bees wouldn't work them grafts near as hard as that queen where they could get that queen pheromone smell from drawing out those
Yeah.
grafts. And that'd be my
Okay.
thought
And
on it.
within
I've never done it, but
on
I
the
would,
sixth day, everything will be too old.
yeah.
Right.
Then you take
Okay.
that queen out. That'll be perfect. So that will work, Ricky.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm doing here with that queen pheromone. I'm just tricking them.
I need some queen rot dolls. I agree, Brian. You know, I keep saying I'm going to buy some, and then you know what happens? I forget every time I come on here, and I forget to get those queen rat dolls. Trust me, I need a bunch of them, probably about 50.
We're waiting. Tell
You
him
better-
we're waiting. Brian, we're waiting for you to get up to 25,000 subscribers so you give a bunch of those away like Bruce did. Then we'll all be checking in.
Yeah, I've
That's
seen
right.
that frame isolation cage. I really like that. I would like to try that out. So,
Well, you know what that's for. You take a really nice comb frame and you put her on that frame, and the bees can still go in and out, but she can't get out. Then you
right.
wait 4 days, and you know that those eggs that she laid the first day on that frame are 1 day larvae. So perfect for grafting. And you get plenty of them.
Yeah, we
That's
still have a
because one-
queen. We still have a queen inside one of those cages that I probably should have looked at today, but Melissa was going to do that when we got back in town on Monday or Tuesday morning, because she put him on an isolation cage in there, and she's still stuck in there. And I forgot about it. I should go pull her out actually, so I don't hope they don't start to build cells within the rest of the hive, since she's been isolated to that cage now for exactly 1 week now.
Yeah, you
Wow.
may have a little wacky stuff on your cage.
Yep. Hey, JW, you know who I'm gonna blame on that one? Not me.
She's in the background. You better watch what you say.
Well, I'm really good at opening my mouth and putting my foot in it, so that's how that works.
So I had one last year and I bought a couple queens, 3 breeder type queens, and I didn't pull the cork out. I forgot to pull the cork out or something. And I went back in that hive 3 weeks. And I didn't go back 2 weeks later. I went back like 3 weeks later, and she was still in there, and they were feeding her.
Wow,
So I was like, "Whoo, got lucky."
that's
Then
a
I
good
just
thing.
released her.
Yeah, at that point in time, she was mom. She was just mom that was caged up, right?
Yeah, I figured she was still alive. Now the bees inside of it were dead, but she was
They weren't.
still alive.
They weren't feeding them. They were just feeding her.
Yeah.
Well, that ought to slow your mite population down a little bit. They claim to, you cage the queen, stop her laying while they
Yeah. I don't do much of that.
No, I don't either.
I just had
That's
my
it.
bees checked and the report was no mites, so I'm good.
That's another question. How's everybody's mic checks? I haven't even done any yet. Anybody done any mic checks? See where they're at this year?
Yeah, I treated a couple of days ago, and I had pretty good results. The most I had was 5, in my samplings. I didn't sample every hive, but I sampled I think 13 or 14. So,
Most of the time, this time of year, I'm just looking at the drone cone between the frames that I'm tearing apart
yeah.
and just checking that. But, I usually don't do a real good sample till about July here.
Same way, Ricky. I got too many boxes on all my hives. I'm not drilling down into them.
Yeah, that's the problem when you got, trying to get honey off your hives. It's just, gosh,
Right.
it's hard to dig all the way down.
I've drilled a hole in the top and my top box and my bottom box, and I give them a double dose, 4 in each. If I've got 4 or 5, most of my stuff's, I've got 8, 10 frames. The rest of them's all 8s and nukes.
Hey, JW, how many splits did you make this year?
I don't even know. Not just a bunch. For me, several. I think 17 or 18.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, that's quite a few.
Well, I got too many. I gave some away here 2 weeks ago to get. I'm going to try to get back down to 30. I got up to 57,
Holy cow.
and I give 18 away, and I'm going to try to get. I've got a mentee that I'm going to try to get back down. 30's about all I want. Heck, I'm tired of jumping rope and doing back flips and stuff. I'm just getting too stiff to work that many hives.
So Morris Homestead has a very good question here. He says, how much brood is too much brood in a colony? When should I make a split? When they have 6 frames of brood or 8 frames of brood? The colony is drawing their second super out right now. So what do y'all think?
I think that depends upon your goal. Do you want a honey crop or do you not want a honey crop? And I think what time of year is that? Like what area are you in? When does your main nectar flow? Do you want to capture that nectar flow? So do you want to split them back a little bit? So I would say not enough information to make a judgment call on based upon what his goals are. I'll just throw out a scenario. If you wanted to make a honey crop, and in Missouri, our honey, our main flow would, and this is rough numbers because obviously we all know that they've been shifted around a lot here this year. And I think pretty much everybody's kind of saying the same thing. If our main nectar flow doesn't really actually officially hit until, let's just say May 1, and that carries on through, on a real strong flow, probably through mid-June, generally speaking, that's a general rule of thumb. I would think that you'd want to have 4 or 5 frames of brood about 2 weeks. Let me think if I'm thinking about this right. I think about 2 weeks before you get to till you get to about that May 1st, or actually that first week rather, because you'd kind of want them to peak after that nectar flow really starts to get underway. So probably in that first week of May, you'd probably want 4 or 5 frames of brood, good solid frames. Anything more than that, I would probably take away. That's the scenario that I would play off of if, in fact, I wanted to capture those nectar flows and still make a split. That's how I would proceed.
I'd go with the comment there in the blue, Ricky. I think that would probably be more accurate than the one that Tom gave you.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been Melissa. But again, like I said, that depends upon your goal, right?
Yeah. I think if you want to do single brood management, 8 frames is pretty, efficient for a good colony. And I even like them to start putting a little bit of brood on the 9th and the 10th frame, with the outside frame being honey or pollen. And if you can get that kind of set up, like Tom says, right before the honey flow starts, my goodness, that hive will absolutely pound the honey in those supers. But that's my opinion on it. What do you think, Tom? Mac, what do you think?
I think so. I mean, I do 6 frame single brood management,
Well,
and it slams them out. And if you do the math, they only need 6 frames, as long as they're all worker cells, no honey on them.
My experience has been
I don't have
if
any
you add
6
too early,
frames is
boys,
pushing it
then
though. I have to make sure I got new queens in them every year. That's never gone through a flow, or they're swarm on you. I think 8 and 10 is perfect. 8 or 9 is perfect. When I go check my 10 frame boxes, I'll have pollen on the first frame and on the 10th frame, and brood in the middle. Rest of
when I first
8 frames.
Yeah. When I first started keeping bees, I would run all my hives with 2 deep boxes, and I felt like that would give me the big peak of honey, and everything would be great. And for some reason, those colonies wanted to swarm out on me all the time. I don't understand why they did. It's like they would get honey locked or bounded up. I don't know. But once I went down to doing the single brood management, and I'm not trying to push it on anybody. It's just what I have learned that works really good for me, and this is what all the big honey crop guys do. That just changed. It was a game changer for me catching honey. I caught tons of honey. So I bought queen excluders, and I do all my hives that way now. So it works really good for me.
I'll second that. They put all that, they don't put hardly any honey on the frames. Maybe a
Yep.
little bit in each corner, and that's about it.
Yep. That's it. So
And bees are smart. They know they have to keep room. A good queen will, the bees, on a good queen, the bees will keep the room free for her to lay.
yep. But
If
if you
that's
don't keep
all the room they have.
you don't keep those supers on there though, and that brood nest gets backed up with nectar, then you'll see some swarming going on that way pretty easily. So yeah.
And it's really easy to tell if you got not a real strong queen if there's nectar in that bottom box. Time to pinch that queen and get a better queen.
That's a good point, Tom. I never thought about that.
Yeah. A good queen, a good hive, that they'll keep all those frames clean.
I've noticed
It
that in a
seems
lot
like-
of these counties I made splits on. If you look in the bottom of because I do double brood box, I look in the very bottom center part of the frame, that little rainbow. They'll have everything filled up with nectar going around, a huge rainbow, and it'll even be capped. And they'll have one spot that's a small rainbow in the center of that upper frame that is empty as can be. And they're just waiting for her to drop up there.
Yeah. I see, like when you got 2 deeps, 2 10-frame deeps or 2 8 frames, I think the bees say, well, there's plenty of room for her to lay, and they're lazy and they just put the honey right at the entrance.
Right.
And then they start putting it on in the top, and she gets honey bound because she's not fast moving up and down between the boxes.
Yeah. And that's
okay, let me ask you a question on that single brood management.
Yeah.
When you do that, when you add your supers, do you immediately put your excluder on, or do you wait till the supers get partially drawn? Or
No, I put them on as soon as the flow starts. That excluder goes on.
Yep.
I only use metal ones though. I will not use plastic ones on my production hives.
Yeah.
Bees
hold
do
on.
not like the plastic ones.
JW is
no
asking
issues
about
with the metal
undrawn
ones.
frames.
Yeah,
JW is specifically asking about undrawn frames.
Yeah. For me personally, if it's undrawn, I will put a deep box and still put cone, and then I put foundation strips. I'm cheap. I put strips in all of my supers that I want drawn out for that year. Some new cone. I just put strips in it, put that on there, and they'll go to town on that. What was you gonna say, Tom?
I don't
What's-
use
Yeah,
any tips. I use all foundations. I'm too lazy to mess with, you know.
JW, I
Yeah,
don't use any queen excluder until my plastic foundations have already had a good start. And if by chance, yeah, because often they won't go through it. So
I
if
agree.
I have a lot of empty comb above the excluder, they'll work it. But if I don't, they don't usually view it as their space. So I let them go up there. And if in fact she does go up there and lay, I don't care. I'll just find her. I mean, if there's a lot of bees, you can just shake them all down, queen excluder, and then put it back on. They'll hatch out. But I don't use an excluder until I have drawn comb above it. And there's been a couple of times this year that I've pulled the excluder off when I had drawn comb because they weren't going up there and storing it. But the nectar flow wasn't real good at that point. So I pulled it out just to get them to go up there because they didn't have the bottom brood nest plugged up, but they weren't going above the honey bands in my second box. So I pulled it off.
Is it Lee's birthday?
It is.
is it?
Am I missing out on something here?
I
Does
don't have
anybody know?
No, Dawson should know. Maybe I don't know. He says it is. Give us a yay or nay for sure, Dawson. Is it Lee's birthday today?
He's got a migraine, so maybe that's what it is he's getting old and his
Yeah.
head's hurting really bad.
Well, he might have just aged another year, so that could be why.
We had a little bit too much of that mead that he made
That's what it is, yeah. He's partying too hard for his birthday, ain't he?
last night or this morning.
Let's see.
Bob's
so-
birthday. I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bob
that's
Walker's birthday is today or tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah,
that's a good
I
comment that Paul
checkerboard all my foundations too. I
just
can.
made here.
Yeah, he did. That's a good
They
comment.
drew out the existing comb, 2 fat frames, and did a little on most of the foundations to the provided comb. I have had that happen before too, where you checkerboard some in and they'll just continue to pull the frame next to it, pull it out further, and then cap it. So then, of course, my OCD gets weird on me. So then I go in there and take capped honey on the top of the frame and take my Hive tool and I uncap it. I uncap that honey band and I shove it back in there and they'll shrink it right back down and then they'll draw that frame out.
I haven't seen too much of that.
Well,
It happens occasionally.
I've got one colony. I don't care what I do. They cross comb everything. I have checked the level of the hive. I've done everything. I've taken frames out, put them brand new foundation in, and they'll do it again. It's wax foundation, and they will cross comb it. These bees are crazy. I don't understand it.
Get rid of them.
That's what I'm saying.
They're not reading those books, are they, Ricky?
They ain't reading the books at all.
That must be an artistic bee. An artistic bee will do all this fancy stuff, and you don't need all that in your life. That's too much stress.
I think they're a lot like my wife. Who's a good artist. It's just they just do what they want to, right?
That's right. Yeah.
It
Gotta
does seem like some genetics do that more than others.
I think you're right, Tom. Yeah.
I pretty much buy double wax and then I rub my wax on every frame and a couple of them won't do it right. They don't read the books.
That's right.
Yep. I'm not afraid to pinch queens.
Hey, Ricky,
Mark, you're right. They're not level-headed.
Ricky, maybe what you should
got
do
one
is send
hive
those
that's
artistic
little-
bees to Brian at Castle. Send them up to him.
Yeah. He'll take care of them, won't he?
Yeah. Let them cross comb his stuff.
Yeah. I got one hive that's got a little temperament. I think I know what hive it is, but it's in my 12-6 framers that are right next to each other. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly what bee is coming out of what entrance. But one of them's getting replaced here when I redo my queens soon. I
Yeah.
find out which hive it is. She's getting
Yeah.
pinched.
Yeah. The honeybee compound. He's asking, says Ricky, do they do any uncapping? Yeah, that colony is just a mess. It's weird. I mean, I put wax foundation in there, and they are literally cross coming it like there's no wax in there whatsoever. It's crazy. I have fought this hive for 2 years now, so I'm about done with it. Now, don't get me wrong; it's in a box that was made by some old timer, so maybe there's some kind of measurement off that I don't know about. Maybe I just need to get rid of the box.
Yeah, maybe it is the box.
Hey,
Maybe the
It's
box.
got some fungus in it or something.
Yeah.
who's jamming in the background? I hear music.
I don't hear it.
Probably my wife in the other room. I don't know. She got on the boob tube.
Oh, I just hear something jamming. It sound like a bunch of a woman singing or something.
Yeah, it's JW. He's jamming there. We just don't see it.
Yeah, I knew it.
That's the other side of JW.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably one of them fancy dancers like what's his name? Comes on tomorrow night. Oh gosh.
Prince.
Yeah. No, Sawmill
Does it go
Charlie.
off? Is it go off now?
Yeah.
Yep. Can't hear
Well,
you. Uh-oh. Look at this
Well,
guy.
Old, what's his name?
Sorry, Charlie. My mind gets on here and I can't talk sometimes. Sorry, Charlie.
Charlie.
Oh Lordy. You say somebody's name and they just pop right on. Look at that.
Mhm.
Well, I haven't been in the background, but I had to get a bunch of other stuff done.
Yeah.
I hadn't even seen him post.
Huh?
You didn't even put any post out, did you?
No,
Comments?
I had a bunch of paperwork I had to get done, tag renewals, and a whole bunch of I've been away for a little bit, and 200 and some emails and all that stuff.
That's a lot of emails to return.
Now a lot of it's a junk.
Oh, yeah.
Probably about 100 of them are junk.
Oh, the dancer, bluegrass.
So when we
Bluegrass dancing in the sawmill.
Hmm. Hey Shane, so what's you talking about honey production now? Or what?
Roscoe. Ricky's
So we're
crazy.
talking about your dancing, and JW is listening to music over here, dancing in the background. So
Can you hear me now? I think she slowed it down a little bit. Can you hear it?
Hey Keith.
Yep. We can't hear it.
Okay.
Stop blaming your wife for that stuff anyway. All right. We all know what's up.
yeah. Charlie, how is the flow in your area?
It's pretty
Doing
much
pretty good?
done. Pretty much done.
Really?
I mean, it came in, I'm going to say 2 weeks ahead of time. And of course, like everybody else, all the rain and locusts kind of went sort of rained out. And I think poplar, got a little bit of that. And the Catawba tree I have out from the front yard there, it's already bloomed and washed away and all that stuff. So I don't know. Probably I'm going to leave the supers on probably about the 15th of the month and I'm done. I was out there this evening checking boxes and they're capping on some of it. So
Don't you have milkweed and elderberry bushes and
I've
basswood
never
trees
seen.
in
I don't
your
know
area?
I don't know what an elderberry bush looks like. I'm not sure. Maybe we have them. I don't know.
Yeah, they look like small
Clover?
trees and they have a real symmetrical leaf pattern from one side of the stem to the other. And they get a really big white bloom. It looks like a small little umbrella. It's a big cluster of real small white flowers that make up one big bloom.
Mm-hmm.
Makes good wine.
Makes good flu medicine too.
I know
Charlie,
my
don't y'all
clover
have
this
some
year is
clover
the best
and
I've ever
buckeye
seen
around your
clover.
area?
I got it everywhere.
I don't know. I mean, for here, I mean, um, you got a lot of developments around. I mean, yeah, we have wooded. I mean, I know Ricky's been here. It's open fields for as far as the farm goes, but
What's your hay crop?
a little bit of white clover, maybe.
Well, hey, Charlie, what have your temperatures been during the day and then throughout the evening?
Maybe in the 80s. It hasn't really been hot this year.
Right.
I'm talking about like 95 degrees and hot and steamy. And I've been thinking about that as far as, we're not too far away from mite treatment program starting for me. Let's say mid to late July. And unless things changed, I mean, I do have Aprivor, but I got a tub of Aprigard, and I've always been it's always been tremendously hot when that's being used, and I'm wondering whether I'll get the right temperature to be able to put that on. Anybody had any experience with that?
I'm just like you. I'm waiting on the right temperature since I pull my supers. Well, which will be in the next 3 weeks, I think. Then I'm gonna go with the Apigard. Try it. If it's not too hot.
Well, I do know you put a shim on there and then put the Aprigard so the bees can get up around it and take it down through the hive.
Yeah.
I thought I would do a 3-week treatment program, 33 grams per week. I mean, if it's kind of cool like it has been, I mean, let me look at the temperature.
So I think looking at that, what process do y'all use to get rid of wax moth cocoons off frames? Pressure washer? Anybody?
Pressure washer.
Yeah, that's a pressure washer.
I scrape them and pressure wash them with
Yep.
I've got a heated pressure washer. It helps a lot.
Yep. So what you got there, Charlie?
Well, today it was 74 degrees and humidity was down pretty good. And the rest of the week it's going to run around 79 and through the weekend, 81 on Wednesday of next week, and then it's in the 60s more or less at nighttime. I mean, we haven't seen any real hot heat, humid, 95 degree stuff at all. Now, last year, September, I think it was, I guess into August. Anyway, it was like about 100 degrees or getting really close to 100. But the humidity was low, so it didn't feel like 100 degrees or 99 degrees. So, and DC wants to know about pucks. I have some. I'm probably going to throw them in late after I do. My plan is Aprigard or Aprivor, and then I will do Formic. Usually it's somewhere around September for 2 weeks feed, and after I get done after I get done using Aprivor or Formic Pro, then I'll throw the pucks in and then I'll start feed them up for the winter.
So, Charlie, the reason I asked you earlier what your temperatures were, I don't think that you're seeing any nectar flowing from the white clover yet. It might be there and it might be blooming, but I was told that white clover doesn't begin to release nectar until it's between 80 and 85 degrees and somewhat consistent overnight. Like if you're dipping down into the 50s or even low 60s, it may not be enough to turn the faucet on. So hold out. You very well may get some.
Yeah. Let's see. Tonight it's 64 degrees. And the rest of the week is all in the 60s at nighttime. Yeah, I'm not in a big hurry to pull supers. I mean, I'll put it to you that way. Actually, I was in a what was it? I think it was a nuke, and the nuke had I've been supering my nukes this year, like I normally do. And it was building comb and honey on top of the nuke. I went ahead and I said, all right, I'm gonna give you another box. And if you draw me some wax, that's great. If it doesn't make any real honey, but I'll always take wax, fresh wax and stuff like that. And that kind of stuff. And then I was out there Tuesday evening, I guess it was. And I just checked honey supers and stuff like that across the board, just looking at them. I had 2 big highs that I had put extra honey supers on. They weren't using the top ones. And I had a couple other newer hives that only had 1 super, but they were pretty much full and they were putting some wax up on top of the bars. I went ahead and pulled those box supers off for the other 2 highs and put them on the other ones, give them some space as far as storage wise. Whether they use it or not, who knows? The main thing is I'm rebuilding this year. It's like I had 1 hive out there that was in a single medium, and I had put a virgin in there, and she took off and laying up a storm. And I said, all right, let me checkerboard another medium super into that hive and give her more space to lay. Just leave her alone.
Do you sell any medium nukes?
I used to, but
is there a big want?
I'll say 4 or 5 years ago, when the women were really getting into beekeeping, they wanted mediums because of the weight. But then I've been tracking that kind of sales over those years, and I could see a trend that the medium sales were getting less and less each year. So the last year or 2, I just pretty much went all deeps. And all that. But the majority of my hives always been 3 mediums as far as the brood chamber in the winter. I started out with double deeps like everybody did. And then that top deep got full of honey, and it's like 100 pounds. And I don't know, Dutch clover is just, yeah, that's pretty much what it amounts to. But I went to mediums because it was a little easier to lift. I got the hive lifter. The only reason I went to 5 double deep hives, or I'm switching, because number 1, I had the boxes and I didn't want to buy any more boxes. And number 2, I've got the hive lifter to manage that style hive for weight wise. And so I'm trying it out. I might switch over back to mediums. I don't know. We'll see. One nice thing about it is that, having 1 size frame and 1 size box across the board, it's so much easier when you're swapping things around. But, like I say, trying to get back to I expanded to 16 honey production hives, reduced my nuke down to 12. So next spring, hopefully the fresh queens will give me a great honey crop next year. Hopefully the weather will cooperate, and I'll kind of keep my nukes for myself if there's happens to be any dead outs, so I don't have to buy anything, and also use them as heavy duty resource highs, i.e. making cell builders. I'm gonna kind of get away from the nuke thing and really kind of focus in on my queen rearing and get back into that.
Hey, so I have a question for you guys that are on the agricultural area. What do you guys know about the alfalfa blooms and honey? And do you ever see bees working it? Now, I realize that generally speaking, the guys who grow alfalfa, they're growing it for feed, and they usually cut it right before the bloom pushes out, because that's the max amount of nutrients that are in it. I will say the guy that we keep 30 something colonies on, I noticed the field next door has alfalfa, and they don't spray anything on any of their property they have. And I remember they have 40, 50, 60 acres, something like that. And they raise cattle, sheep, and they raise some fields of alfalfa. And he's about a week and a half late in getting it cut. and all the blooms are happening. I jumped the fence and walked through that field. I seen a lot of pollinators over there working it, but I didn't see one honeybee on it. What's you guys' thoughts?
Well, as far as the alfalfa goes, they usually cut it every 28 days. They usually like to let it bloom about a third of the bloom, not 100% of the bloom.
Okay.
Because like you say, the bloom sucks the nutrients out of the plant.
Yep.
Of course, he's late because of weather. Just like my son cut today. The fields that you see behind me there have been cut today. And it rained a little bit, but because it was freshly cut, it is not going to hurt it any. And but it was getting old, and he cut last week.
I think those only work off of a 5-year bloom cycle. Is that right? On alfalfa before you have to resow it?
Pretty much so. 3 years actually around me, as I always tried to redo it. They'll work alfalfa, but they like other stuff. They won't work alfalfa if there's other stuff, that they like better. It's not a choice.
Well, my bees are finding something that they like better because I can smell nectar coming in. They're fanning at the front, they're drying it down. I see it coming in, and then alfalfa's blooming. And I didn't walk through the whole field, but there's probably 10 to 15 acres there in that field, and I didn't see any. I seen other pollinators, but I didn't see them working it. So I was just kind of curious to know. I'm guessing that bloom cycle probably depends on your soil composition and how alkaline or acidic it is, as far as how long it blooms, as far as a 3-year or 5-year. Is that right?
Oh, 3 years in this area. Alfalfa, we're marginal for alfalfa. And we're really too warm in our area, Tom, for good alfalfa. You got to get up where they got cooler nights and stuff in Nebraska, Dakotas, and up in Minnesota and up into there to get really good quality alfalfa.
Okay.
We can grow it here, and I used to grow it when I had cattle all the time, but it's not a prime. The horse guys like it, of course, but it's not a prime cattle feed because you have to of the fungus and stuff. It's warm enough, you have to spray it, and it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, he doesn't spray this. I'm 100% certain because we talked about that earlier on. He said he doesn't spray anything. So whatever happens, happens. I will say this. He said he's on the last year of it, and he said what he's thinking about doing, and JW, you might be more familiar with this because you had cattle. He said that he's talking about using an African style of grass called Sudan.
Yeah.
And growing that up here.
Well, there's a lot of new grass hybrids that these seed companies are coming up with. There's a jillion different ones, but they all basically go back to like a Sudax. But they can get 4, 5, 6 cuttings off it a lot of times because it grows very fast.
Okay, so that would make sense then why he's talking about doing it. And I think Shane brings up a good point. He says honeybees can't access alfalfa, but alfalfa leaf cutters make holes which bees can get. So that's probably similar to like what you might see. A bumblebee can actually cut into the side of a bloom and access the nectar, whereas a honeybee cannot do that. So that could be why I'm not seeing them work it either. If they physically can't, they won't touch it, I guess. So good information.
Guys, I'm going to check out. Everybody have a great night.
All right, Tom.
Have a good one.
See ya.
I don't know. It's like the clover, the Dutch white clover. The bees will work that maybe I'll say mid-morning before the hot sun kicks it. As soon as the hot sun goes out, then it dries that nectar source right up and they're done. The majority of the time, if it's in the yard around here where you mow with the lawnmower, you're going to see the bumblebees on it, but I've never really seen the honeybees on it at all.
Well, that would make sense if you're saying temperature, because there are a lot of flowers or blooms that are very temperature sensitive where, like you said, they might work early in the morning, but by the time the midday sun gets, they might shut down.
Oh, it's shut down for sure. And all that. But as far as alfalfa, I mean, I don't know. We raised it, and that's the most particular stuff there ever is. You got to cut it. You got to bale it half wet, and, in order to keep the leaves on it. And you can't you got to treat it real with kid gloves all the time.
Hmm.
And then it grows so darn much. It's always growing. And we tried to mix it with our other hay, and I'm glad we got rid of it. So,
Well, that's good.
Morris says, my bees cover my white clover in my yard, and mine do the same thing. And I see what Sawmill Charlie says. Usually by late afternoon, they're not quite on the clover the way they were. But the bees around here, when there's no other nectar source, the white clover is everywhere. They are on it, and they're on it hot.
I'll have to pay attention.
You got to remember that honeybees are opportunists. It's
Yes.
whatever they can. If they can find the most easiest stuff there is, that's where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell everybody to go there and all. But anyway,
told that they would only work the source that they get the most of, but I'm think like you said, Charlie, it's more what's there for them to get at that point of the day or wherever, right? That's the one they're going to go get.
Maybe the sweetest or whatever nectar it is they can find.
Yep.
But I don't know. I was in my demery hives. I was doing some demerying tonight and on those double deeps. And I can kind of see that queens are starting to slow down some. I mean, they're laying, but they're slowing down a little bit. I probably could have left them for another week without messing with them.
So that's an interesting comment that Shane makes. Honeybees can remember 9 different places and times for the optimum foraging.
He's made a lot of good comments tonight. That's really cool to learn that right there. I never knew that.
I would like to research that. I mean, I'd have no idea. I'm sure he's right. I've never heard that. That's interesting, though.
Very interesting.
Yeah. It's all these different things that you can learn to help you be a better beekeeper and manage these colonies a little more appropriately, or where you might consider putting them based upon the forage that's around them, right?
Yep. That's pretty interesting that alfalfa honey in Colorado's dark and has a smoky flavor.
I'd be willing to bet that based upon the soil composition, it could taste a little different from one region to another. I've heard that before for other nectar sources.
Yeah.
Another thing with Colorado there, I guarantee it's a pinwheel out there irrigating that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, with their dry climate.
They're arid and they got a pinwheel, you fly over top of them in the airplane, you look like circles, crop circles. And, their problem they have out there, if they're baling that hay, it gets too dry. They actually have to put water on it.
Wow.
It's, stuff. I mean, I've seen it in some of the magazines that I look at, and it's like, really, it's like totally opposite of what we have here. And they're baling it.
Bless you.
Sorry.
Because they want some humidity if there's any out there to get.
Mm-hmm. We're making some honey, Brian. Trying to. First year. Hopefully it works out well. I know that they were drawing some last week in a couple of the yards that we had put I only have 10 boxes for comb honey, and not all of them are out because we were kind of stalling on our nectar flow. But if this continues to hold out, hopefully they can get one drawn. I'm going to sneak some more in there so I can get as much as I can and make use of those hot knife cutters that Melissa and I bought the last 2 years.
I've got one frameless. Well, I've got one frameless sweeper on all my hives, so that's my honeycomb.
I tell you what, cut comb sells really good in our area. I don't know, is that the same in other places?
I think it sells good every place that I've people to do it.
I've seen it out, different fairs or whatever, and cut comb, they'll have it, and people will buy it,
A lot of older folks prefer it, fellas. I think you get more from your older customers than you will. And I'm not a big honey seller, but I'm just talking about it. Talking to people that ask.
It's kind of what they grew
Usually
up,
older.
kind of what they grew up on,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and all that. I
I
mean, I
think
can get.
people might view that as more of an unadulterated source, even though that is not entirely true. But maybe that gives you the idea that it is.
Well, it's like down there where my father's uncle lived, where close to where Ricky lives. I can remember going down there, and they had a crystal jar. It was
Yeah.
it was a round crystal
Yep.
with a crystal lid on top of it, and it was a honey. It was a 10. It would hold 10 pounds of honey, and you basically, I'll say, uncapped it, and you put the whole comb in there.
Mhm.
They didn't have extractors, I think, at that. Well, I guess they did, but that's not the way they did it. And it would, the honey would ooze out, and you just go in there with your spoon or whatever and dip it up.
Yep.
Hey, Brian, I have a question for you. He talks about how we make and sell honeycomb. They did amazing during the holiday season. So, Brian, if you don't mind sharing in your region, okay, 2x4s. Do you do 2x4s and 4x4s? And then please let us know what the going rate for you in your area for those 2x4s and if you do the 4x4s, what the cost difference is and what you can get for that.
I would say about $20. I'd say.
For
Yeah,
a 4x4?
Nah, well, I don't know. Two before, I guess. What I've seen, well, I guess if it's a square, it would be a 4x4, right?
That's right. Yeah, we got a couple of those Pierce 4x4 cutter. We have one 4x4 cutter and one 2x4. So we're really anxious to use those.
I got a Pierce 4x4, and the only reason I bought it is because I can cut the 4x4 right, and then if I want a 2x4, just smooth the cutter over and cut it again. So that's why I didn't buy two the same.
Good call. Hey, Ricky, we bought both because Melissa has more money than me.
I gotcha.
$15.
Nice plastic rectangle good cases. Okay. So I would think that if you do a 4x4, you could probably get 20 or maybe a little bit more than that. If you sell on a 2x4 for 15, it would seem realistic that I'm not saying you could get double that, but what I'm saying is you could probably get a little more than 20, but that's going to depend on your area too.
Now, is he just selling those in his area, or is he selling them, online also?
I feel fairly certain that I think Brian just sells in his area, and mainly he does the markets. And there's one big one particular that he goes to that I think he does fairly well at, and there's a lot of people there.
In the wintertime, it's 5 consecutive weeks, I think it is.
Wow.
Where you can, it's indoor in the winter. He sets up his booth, and all he has to do is, and he doesn't have to, what do you call it? Move his product in and out all the time, constantly.
Yeah, that's the biggest pain. When we go to markets, that's my biggest gripe is, and Brian and I were talking about this too, just the other day. And I'm like, the one thing that I hate is moving. You have to load stuff up from your house, put it in your vehicle, get it to the site and unload it. Whatever you don't sell, you have to do all that in reverse. So you're loading and unloading a lot, right? So, I mean, obviously you want to do pretty well at these locations and events, and you'll kind of start to learn what you sell at and what you don't, and how much you need to take and how much you don't need to take. At least Melissa and I have learned that a little bit over this last year of doing some markets and such. But I know Brian's done a lot more than we have, and he's got some bigger markets near him than we have found ourselves. Okay, 3 weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Charlie. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah. It was a big, a big market.
Yeah, that's what you need, DC's bees, if you have a trailer that you can pull up to location. I will say, though, that sometimes these markets will only allow you a 10 by 10 space. So that would make it difficult. Or if you were allowed to get 2 spaces to put your trailer in, then you obviously a little more cost. But if you're doing well, I guess it makes sense.
Well, the thing with the trailer, an enclosed trailer, if you can pack it, let's say cases of liquid honey, you don't need, as long as it ain't going to freeze or something, you can just leave it there.
Yeah.
You don't have to unload, or just all you would have to do is restock.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be tricky too, because if you kept soaps or lip balms in there and the trailer sits out in the sun, I know my enclosed trailer with my mowing equipment that stays in, even though it's white and has a galvanized roof on it, inside of that trailer come midsummer will be, I don't know, 120 degrees, 115 degrees.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that you can do that.
Yeah, that's enough to melt soaps and lip balms. Honey is probably not going to matter a lot if you sell it quickly, but
Well, guys, we're going to go ahead and close out. If anybody on here doesn't know Sawmill Charlie, go to his channel tomorrow night, and there's a lot of good channels on there. So, definitely check them all out. We appreciate everybody's been with us in the chat tonight, and we appreciate the gentleman that's come on and been with us, JW and Dave and Mac, Honeybees. Appreciate all them guys that came on and spoke with us tonight, and even you guys in the comments that give some great information out tonight. We do appreciate that so much. And you know what? God bless, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.
see you.